Miami is expensive. We all know that. But the real question is, how much money do you actually need to live here? And I'm not just talking about scraping by. I mean actually enjoying life in Miami without stressing over every single bill. So here's what we're doing. I'm breaking down two numbers. First, the bare minimum that it takes to live here. And second, the amount you need to cross to start living comfortably, where you're not just surviving, but you're thriving. I will be talking about the cost of housing, transportation, food, insurance, and more, so that you can see what it really takes. So that by the end of this video, you'll know exactly where you stack up and you can find out if you're comfortably above the line or if you're falling short and realizing that Miami, it might cost more than you thought. But first, if you're new here, welcome to the channel. I'm Steven, a top producing realtor, investor, and property manager here in Miami. And this channel exists to give you the latest real estate insights, property tours, and market updates in the Miami area. So hit that subscribe button, like button, and ring that notification bell so that you never miss another video. All right, let's dive in. But first, I need to address the ground rules. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about household income and what it takes to survive at the mid-tier level. This breakdown assumes that you're living on your own, not with roommates splitting rent, which is another great way of saving a lot of money, but that's not the topic of today's video. For transportation, I will be including a finance or lease vehicle because in Miami, almost everyone has their own ride. Public transportation outside of Brickell downtown and a couple other pockets is just not very practical living here. Also, I will not be talking about high luxury living. This is mid-tier comfort. No private yachts, no Ferraris, and no bottle service every single weekend. But if you do plan on living that lifestyle, well, at least you'll know the bare minimum and then you could adjust accordingly. Lastly, I will be dividing the cost of living into several buckets, those being housing, transportation, food, healthcare, and entertainment, using the 50-30-20 rule, which states that 50% of your income should be devoted to needs, 30% of your income should be devoted to wants, and 20% should be devoted to investments and savings. So I will go over the cost of each section and then we'll recap and put the numbers together to see how much you actually need to make to be able to afford to live in Miami. But most importantly, guys, one thing I want to make sure that everybody understands is that the cost that I'm referring to is someone looking to live in Miami at the mid-tier level. You know, live in a good area, in a decent apartment, drive a good car, and enjoy the city every once and again. I'm not talking about sacrificing every convenience and pleasure just to say that you live here, because of course you can likely couch surf and live off of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for a fraction of what I'm going to be talking about. But that's not who this video is aimed for. Okay, now that those parameters are out of the way, let's get started with the cost of entertainment when living in Miami. So let's be real, eating out in Miami is not cheap. For me and my wife, for example, a regular lunch, not even anywhere high end, if you will, is about $75 to $80 with tip included. Add in weekends. Let's just say that you go out on average 2 times a day between Friday and Sunday, so 6 meals in total per the week, and you're easily spending between $1,800 to $2,000 a month on eating out. For my single people out there, that's about $800 to $1,000 per month in eating out. This also doesn't take into account parking or valet costs when dining out, which is going to vary depending on where you're going. But if you're thinking about splurging money, then you really need to consider parking and valet costs, which can range anywhere between $25 to $50 per occurrence. You can, of course, take an Uber, but during surge times, it's more or less or más o menos the same for a round trip. When you're going out, you probably want to look your best. So I'm going to throw in men's grooming in here. Your typical barbershop in the Brickell downtown and Gables area for men is going to come out to about $60 to $90 on average, tip included. Women are far more expensive, as you can imagine, so I'm not even going to get into that, but at least double or triple that number. So let's just say, for the sake of this argument, that you spend about $150 per month on grooming. Other entertainment aspects, such as going out for drinks, shopping, concerts, nightlife, all vary. So I'm not even going to include those here, but just consider what I'm saying, that just the bare minimum is of what I'm talking about is what you're going to have to spend before taking into account any of those other options. So recapping this section, your grand total in their entertainment bucket comes out to about $1,200 per month per person. Next, let's talk healthcare. Mainly, I'm going to break this down into 2 sections: health insurance and gym/fitness memberships. Health insurance is the bigger of the two, and according to information that I found online, average monthly health insurance plans for non-subsidized individuals are looking at a range of between $450 to $600 per month. So let's average this and say that you're paying $500 a month per person. Again, non-subsidized. Gym memberships, which are really common in Miami, aside from LA Fitness, are Equinox and Anatomy, and those range about $250 per month. And although there are far more affordable gym options, they're still very much in demand. So if you're really into fitness and you value the perks of some of these luxury gyms, then be prepared to spend about $250 per month. So if you're doing the math, this comes out to about $750 per person. All right, that wraps up healthcare, which leads us into our next bucket, that being food. As you can see, I'm saving the best for last, which is housing and transportation, as those tend to be the biggest cost by far. So we're barely even scratching the surface here. With that said, if you found value or learned something so far, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel as it helps me make more content like this for you guys. Okay, continuing. I know we spoke about eating out earlier, but that section was a want, not a need. A need is food costs, and that was not included in that section. So let's talk about groceries. For one, you'll be shocked to know that Miami has the highest weekly grocery spending of any major US metro according to a US census. On average, a household in Miami spends about $328 per week, or about $1,500 per month in groceries for a household of about 2 to 3 people. If you're single, then that cost or average is about $131 per week, or $524 per month. And this is just the average. If you're someone like me and my wife who try to eat as healthy as possible, and we invest into buying every single organic thing that we can get our hands on, or we tend to frequent farmers markets every now and again, then the cost is likely going to be closer to $2,000 to $2,500 per month. Again, this is going to depend on your lifestyle and your health outlook. Some people don't actually mind buying the lower tier stuff when it comes to the cheapest alternatives in the grocery store. So to those people, all power to you. So take this one with a grain of salt. Regardless, what we know is that you're likely looking at about $550 per month per person. So now let's get into the fun stuff, which is transportation. Let me just make one point clear before starting, especially for those of you who are new to Miami or who may live in other states watching this video. Miami is not a very pedestrian-friendly place to live. The public transportation we have is not the best. I mean, it's getting better, but it still has a long way to go. What this means is that it's very common to see entire households where each adult family member has their own car. In fact, I know of very little families or friends where this isn't the case. So the numbers I'm going to provide, multiply that number by the amount of people in your household of driving age. And another thing is that in Miami, the majority of residents who live here want to at least drive a new entry-level luxury car. And when looking at those prices, the average new vehicle comes out to about $745 per month, and that is just a car payment. Add to that car insurance, which is the highest in the nation when it comes to premium, which is about $280 per month. And then gas, which will run you conservatively about $150 per month, assuming you drive modestly. And when you add all that up, you're looking at about $1,175 per month per person in transportation costs. Again, I'm using the fact that this is Miami and people tend to want to drive nicer cars here. So of course you can get a used car for far less, but at the same time, I'm not even talking about higher end luxury cars. Once you start looking into that difference here, like a G-Wagon or a Range Rover or a Porsche 911, then we're talking about a completely different level. So the prices there skyrocket at that point. So as you can see, we're talking about a mid-level comfort. Now, let's talk about the biggest cost of all, which is housing. For this, we're gonna break this down into monthly mortgage/rent payments, just so you can have an idea of the monthly obligation as well as the utilities per month associated. There are other factors which outline down payment costs, lender fees, etc., but I'm not going to go into too much depth on that because that's going to depend on various factors which affect the total amount. So this is mainly aimed at discussing your monthly housing costs that you can expect to incur. Okay, so the first thing you need to know here is that the median single family home in Miami-Dade is $670,000, assuming a down payment of about 10%, which is a total of $67,000 before closing costs and lender fees. Your monthly mortgage payment that includes principal, interest, taxes, and insurance is going to run you about $5,000 to $6,000 per month. Condos are a little cheaper, around $450,000 medium, but HOA fees are gonna kill you, adding another $500 to $1,000 per month on average. So whether you buy a condo or single family home, you're likely spending at minimum between $3,500 to $5,500 per month just on housing. Renting is not much better either and may save you some money, but we're pretty much in the same ballpark. And actually, once you factor in appreciation, loan paydown, and tax benefits that you get from owning, on paper, it's actually more expensive to rent than it is to own. But that's not what this video is about. We're here to talk about monthly costs for housing. So let's assume that housing will cost you about $3,000 on the conservative side if you're single, if you just need a 1-bedroom, and about $4,500 per month if you're a family and you need at least 2 to 3 bedrooms. Now add utilities to this because after all, at the very least, you're gonna pay for electricity, cable, and internet. While some condos do offer water, trash, and sewer within the rents, for the sake of this conversation, let's just assume that none of that is included. So going off the average residential electricity bill in Miami-Dade County, we get about $260 per month, which by the way is 17% higher than the US average in utility costs. And this is assuming a 2-bedroom property or smaller. Factor in about another $500 per month in water, cable, internet, renters insurance, and you're easily looking at an average monthly utility bill of about $760 per month. Okay, so now that we completed all of that, let's put all these numbers together to get a total, but more importantly, see how much you would have to make just to live here with very little, if anything, left over, I may add. As we haven't really touched on a ton of entertainment, investment, shopping, miscellaneous repair, and especially education costs for those of you with kids. Just the bare minimum essentials, this is what you're looking at. The cost for a single person is about $7,435 per month, or about $90K per year. For a family of 2 or 3, that's about $16,200 per month, or about $195K per year. That's just to get by at the mid-tier level, not balling out, not stacking savings, just surviving. But here's the reality, guys. Living like this means no room for savings, investments, or random expenses that life is gonna throw at you. So let's add what you actually need to live comfortably, again, in this mid-tier level. So for a single person, if we add that buffer, you're about $9,800 per month, or $118,000 a year. For a family of 2 or 3, you're about $21,000 per month, or about $250,000 per year. This takes into account saving 20% of your income for investing and building wealth, plus another 10% for different wants and miscellaneous costs. And let me be clear, this isn't Miami baller lifestyle. It isn't eating ramen noodles every day during the week out of an efficiency lifestyle either. This is just living comfortably. So if you want to flex the Miami lifestyle like you've seen online, which by the way, is super cringe, so don't do that, but you know what I'm talking about. Yachts, bottle service, luxury shopping. Personally, I wouldn't even think about it unless you're making at least double this number. As a luxury real estate agent and a property manager, I deal with people's financial statements all the time. And unfortunately, I can tell you that people are stretching themselves and even getting into debt to keep up with this lifestyle, all for the gram. And honestly, it's quite sad to see. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's incredible wealth in Miami. I've had clients spend $150,000 per month on a rental, so the affluence that you find here is second to none. But there's always a group of people who underestimate what it takes to actually live here comfortably, which is what prompted me to make this video. But question to you watching this video, how do these numbers sound to you? Does it sound outrageous? Like, how would anyone in their right state of mind possibly spend this amount of money per month? Or does it sound about right? Is this your current situation that you're living in? Let me know in the comment section below. Also, if you found value in this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell. And if you're interested in Miami real estate and need assistance, you can always schedule a call using the link in the description box below. And to everybody else, I appreciate the love and the support. And until next time, take care and God bless.